What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Aiden Horn here. In today's video, we're going to be going over electronic settings for modified two-wheel drive buggy. I'm going to be going over everything I do from track to dial in my electronics between radio settings, ESC settings, and motor setup. We're going to be starting this video off with a quick rundown of all the equipment we use for electronics in this fine steed here. Starting with the RIDI 610R ESC. Make sure it's mounted a little bit crooked for the aerodynamics of the wind underneath the body, of course. Got the RIDI 4800 LP zapper and the RIDI Driver Edition 7.0 turn motor. Of course, we use the RIDI servo as well, but we don't tune that, so we're not going to be going over setups for that. Quick side note here before we get into the video. I don't currently run a fan on my ESC or motor, but that's just because I like to live life on the edge, and I would not recommend no fans in the car, especially if you're running carpet or stock. You're going to want a fan on the ESC and the motor both. Just on my dirt car, I don't have any fans currently because it doesn't seem to really get that warm, but the carpet car is definitely double fanned up, and I would definitely recommend always running fans no matter what to make your stuff last a little bit longer. Starting with the radio setup, radios nowadays have a lot of tunability, and you can pretty easily get lost in the sauce, if you know what I mean. I try not to really go too deep into the radio stuff. Maybe later on down the road I'll do a little bit more experimenting and possibly make a video, but for now all I really adjust is the dual rate on the brakes and sometimes throttle if I want a little bit less power, but mainly just the brake dual rate. You could also do EPA adjustments as well, but I normally just do the dual rate because I feel like it's a little bit smoother of an adjustment than just chopping the EPA a little bit. And other than that, I don't really touch the radio settings. I know a lot of people mess with their expo and all their curves and stuff like that, but I think that if you just focus on setting up the ESC properly and have a good motor setup and everything's feeling good, then you shouldn't really need to mess with all this stuff. And on top of that, it's easy to get lost. So if you need a little bit more brakes, then I wouldn't recommend turning down any of these dual rates, but if you want a little bit less brakes or a little bit less sharp when you press them, then you can just click down the dual rate a little bit. I have mine at 90 right now. And if I wanted a little bit more or less, I would go just on the fly in like a warm-up lap or something like that. I'd click it up or down. Next, we're going over the motor setup. Currently, I have the Driver Edition, which is a 12.3 millimeter rotor in the 7.0. Basically, what that is just a smoother power band. It's a little bit smoother on the brakes as well. It kind of just softens up the motor a little bit, making it a little bit easier to drive, and it ultimately should have a little bit more traction with the softer rotor. So I think this is definitely the way to go if you're running on dirt or anything that's maybe a little bit looser if your car's lacking traction. However, on carpet, I would go the other way, and I normally run a 13 millimeter rotor on carpet, which is the biggest one we offer for the most aggression and the most immediate brakes and acceleration power and anything that you need like that, just at the tip of your fingertips on carpet, because you have enough grip to support the radio input for sure. So I think it does depend what surface you're running on, whether it's dirt, carpet, or AstroTurf, but mainly for AstroTurf and carpet, I run a 13 millimeter rotor, and for dirt, for the maximum drivability, I try to run the softest rotor, which is a 12.3. As far as the gearing goes, we're at 2378. The 78 tooth spur gear pretty much always stays on my car. Never really run anything else. But the pinion gear is subject to change based on layout size. The 23 tooth is about as big as I'll run, just to mainly clear bigger jumps out of corners or just have a little bit more motor. I don't really adjust the timing ever. I keep that at 20. That's how it comes stock. And if I need more power, then I'll go to a 23 tooth, or if I need less or a little smaller layout or a little bit more tame, then we'll go to maybe a 22 or even a 21. But we were just jumping some hogs on that last layout, so we got the 23 on. All right, guys, moving on to the most important part, the ESC setup. I'm going to be running through my ESC settings for you guys, explaining which settings I kind of just tuned into what I like and leave the same, and I'm going to be also highlighting some stuff that I will adjust from track to track based on the layout. So basically, we're going to start off with 1A and run all the way through the entire thing here. So drag brake, not really something that I adjust much. Same with brake strength or initial brake. Brake frequency. This is one that I will adjust from track to track. If the track is a little bit tighter and has a lot of 180s and you need a little bit more brakes, then I will bump the frequency down a click or two to accommodate for that, and vice versa. If the track's a little bit more open and not that many tight corners, then I will put the frequency up to make it a little bit smoother. Brake punch, not really something I mess with. Same with this. Punch control, kind of just leave it at 15, initial throttle. Okay, drive frequency. Same with brake frequency. If you're coming out of a lot of 180s and you need the car to be a little bit more jumpy, then I would bump the frequency down, and vice versa. If it's a little bit more open of a track, then you could possibly put it up. Deadband doesn't really move. Moving on to 4A, this is another thing that I do tune from track to track. It's called BT Soft Power. It's a brand new feature on the 610 that wasn't offered on the 510. So I've had some fun playing with it and trying to learn about it a little bit. And basically what it is negative 20 degrees of timing is what I have it set right now. But it's basically negative X amount of timing in the first X% of the throttle. So right now I have mine set at negative 20 degrees of timing for the first 50%, so for the first half of the throttle range. And basically that just makes it a lot easier for me to time the jumps when I'm kind of feathering up to them. And it also, in the tighter sections, it does help me hit the marks a little bit better on the insides as well when I'm going from like 180 to 180. So it definitely does help out if you can play with it a little bit depending on the layout that you're on. Don't really mess with coast value. I don't touch boost. If I want it to be faster, I will mess with timing instead of boost. So turbo timing, I currently have none right now because I have the 23 degree or the 23 tooth pinion. But if there were some jumps that I was still struggling to clear with, even with that 23 tooth pinion, then I would go up a little bit in timing, maybe like 10 degrees. And then I would also do slew rate. So basically, whatever your timing is, I would typically try to set your slew rate at half of that. So if I had, let's say, 8 degrees of timing, I would want 4 degrees of slew rate. That's just kind of the most linear feel that I've been able to come up with. Dustin and I have kind of talked about this quite a bit, and this just seems to be the best way to do it. So right now, I have no turbo in the car, so slew rate, whatever it's set at right now, it's not really going to affect anything. But let's say I had 20 degrees of turbo, then I would want 10 degrees of slew. But yeah, that's about it. So yeah, that's kind of it. I don't really tune a whole lot of stuff from track to track, but there definitely are some key things that I try to make sure are right for each layout. And if you nail those on the head, then you're pretty much set up everywhere you go. As long as you have a nice baseline that you're comfortable with, you really shouldn't have to worry about anything. These electronics are amazing, and I don't ever have any problems with them. So yeah, just get a nice baseline that you're comfortable with. Make those minor tweaks from where you're going, depending on how the track is or the layout or anything like that. But if you found this video useful, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and make sure you follow the Facebook at AidenHornRC, and you'll be updated with all of the latest setups and ESC stuff and just things that we're running. So thanks for tuning in, and if you made it this far, then hope you had a good day, and we'll see you on the next one.